Episode 9, The Finnish Sauna, Letting Go of What Burns You. There's something paradoxical about heat. It burns, yet it heals. That's the lesson I learned inside a tiny wooden sauna in the middle of a Finnish winter. The heat was intense, almost unbearable, yet it taught me how to let go of what I'd been carrying for far too long. Have you ever held on to something so tightly, regret, anger, doubt, that it began to burn you from the inside? Sometimes the only way to heal is to face the discomfort, to step into the fire and let the things you don't need anymore sweat their way out. This is the story of a sauna, the coldest night of my life, and the warmth that helped me release what was holding me back. It was January, and I was in Finland, just outside Helsinki. Snow blanketed the world in white silence. It was beautiful, yes, but also bitterly cold. The kind of cold that cuts straight to your bones, leaving you breathless. I had been invited to a traditional Finnish sauna by a local friend, Kari. "You haven't experienced Finland until you've sweated and frozen in the same hour," he said with a grin, his cheeks flushed from the wind. I wasn't sure what to expect. Saunas weren't new to me, but this was different. Kari led me through a forest path to a small wooden cabin. Smoke curled lazily from the chimney, and inside it was dark and warm, like stepping into another world. The heat hit me immediately, like a wave. It wasn't just warm, it was suffocating, almost aggressive. My skin prickled as I sat on a wooden bench. The air thick and heavy. I could feel sweat pooling on my forehead, running down my back. Kari poured more water onto the stones, and the sizzle hissed through the silence. "It's good," he said, wiping his face with a towel. "The heat cleans you," I laughed nervously. "Or kills you," he grinned, "only if you fight IT. I leaned back, trying to relax, but the heat brought more than just sweat to the surface. My thoughts began to race. Unresolved arguments, mistakes I'd made, fears I hadn't faced. It felt like the sauna was squeezing them out of me, leaving me nowhere to hide. At one point, Kari looked at me and said, "You're too stiff. Relax. Let it go." "Let what, GGO?" I asked. He shrugged, tossing more water on the stones. "Whatever you're holding, the heat will take it if you let it." I sat there, staring at the dark wooden walls, the heat pressing against me like a weight. The truth was, I was holding on to something, grudges I couldn't shake, failures I couldn't forgive, words I wished I could take back. They burned inside me, eating away at me quietly, and here, in the sauna, I could feel them bubbling to the surface. "Why does it feel so uncomfortable?" I asked him finally. Kari looked at me, serious now. "Because healing isn't comfortable. Letting go isn't easy. But if you stay, if you let yourself feel it, you come out lighter." That's when he stood, opened the sauna door, and gestured outside. "Come, now it's time for the cold." I stared at him in horror. "Outside? In that?" He laughed. "Yes, trust me." I followed him outside, stepping barefoot into the snow. The cold was like a slap, sharp and shocking. I gasped as the air hit my burning skin, steam rising off me like smoke. Kari ran toward a frozen lake, where a small hole had been cut into the ice. "We jump in," he called. "You're insane," I shouted back. He laughed again. "It's part of it. You'll see." I watched him plunge into the icy water, his breath hissing as he surfaced. He waved for me to follow. Every instinct in my body screamed no, but something inside me, some small voice, said, "Try." The cold was a shock like nothing I'd ever felt. It was unbearable, yet strangely alive. My heart pounded in my chest, every nerve on fire. But as I surfaced, gasping for air, something happened. The weight I'd been carrying, the things that had burned me in the sauna, they were gone. It was as if the cold had washed them clean, leaving me raw but free. We sat in silence afterward, wrapped in towels by the fire. The heat of the sauna, the shock of the cold, it had wrung something out of me, something I hadn't even realised I needed to release. Carrie looked over and said softly, "Feeling better?" I nodded. "Lighter." He smiled. "That's what it's for. The heat burns away what you don't need. The cold wakes you up to what's left." That night, I thought about how often we avoid discomfort, how we hold on to things because facing them feels too hard, too painful. But the truth is, the only way to release what burns us is to step into the heat, to feel it fully and then let it go. The sauna wasn't just a tradition. It was a lesson. Healing doesn't happen in comfort. It happens when we're willing to face the things that hurt, to sit with the heat, and trust that we'll come out the other side stronger, lighter, and alive. So, I'll leave you with this. What are you holding on to that's burning you? What would happen if you let yourself face it, feel it, and finally release it? Sometimes the hardest part isn't letting go, it's choosing to step into the fire. Next week, we'll travel to the green hills of Ireland, where I discovered the power of the stories we tell ourselves and how changing them can change everything. Until then, remember, sometimes the heat is what sets us free.